the cryptozoology show. It's been a while. Wanted to get this done by Christmas, but I had some things to do, and I've been stuck doing things. So happy New Year's, and hope you had a nice Christmas holidays and all that sort of thing like that. Um, I don't know if I'm going to have time for the dragons and that, or even the Yeti and the Almas, because we got a few other sort of things here that I wanted to talk about. A few legends of cryptozoology have just passed on in recent times, right? That I'd like to talk about a little bit. And a bunch of other sort of things we're going to be covering here. This aliens and Bigfoot connection and that sort of thing like that. And also for a bit of comedy here, last time we showed there that Justin may have a ray gun that can, make anybody his sort of love slave, sort of there. That this just an AI possibly or whatever it might be, and that. So unlike most of them though. I thought about it, and I guess I would be weak too, right? So I thought of some hotties that I would want to use it on, and that, but that I would give them, like, I would just want to do it for a couple of months, make sure that they got really used to me, got to see what I'm really like, and maybe then you let them go. If they still cared about you, wanted to be with you, great, that I got her. If not, then she can run, and we'll try again. Sort of thing like that. So anyways, we got a bunch to cover here. First, someone to talk about. Dr. Jeff Muldrum, he passed away recent, and he was such a huge, guy for the Sasquatch community here, and a huge loss, right? He was a professor of anthropology at the Idaho State University, and at least in my opinion, anyways, definitely a world's authority on Sasquatch tracks. Right? He had the largest collection, and him and I have something in common. Even though I never spoke with this fellow, I wanted to a few times. I wanted to catch one of his sort of lectures and different things like that. He was a very smart man, and that I talked to Dr. Bendernenko once, right? And he had passed on, and that was another one that was a big proponent for this sort of thing as well. That's another one that I'll mention as well. While with that we're here, right? That I quite admired. He ran across Sasquatch tracks himself, and same with Jeff Muldrum here. And this is what changed his opinion on it and became, the fascinated by it. But him and I have something in common. We both held the original Bosphor cripple prints, right? I used to have a picture of me holding it, right, and that sort of thing like that. And for sure, that's not fake. I mean, for sure, I saw underneath a microscope places where it his this creature's weight was so heavy that it went through all the snow embedded in these little pebbles and stuff, and you can see it pushed way up into its feet. You can't do that with wood or stuff like that. It doesn't look like that, and that's what, even more than the anomaly of being crippled and everything, it was that convinced me at such a young age that this had to be real, because I knew it couldn't be from wood. Like, so what would you use then to be able to do all this? Like, there was little funny lines in it too, and weird stuff, right? That may be these dermal ridges that they're talking about, right? Like this, I don't, because I mean, I every time I saw tracks, all of these were great tracks. Like, they couldn't have been made by a wooden foot. This much I know, right? And that sort of thing like that. So I haven't actually ran across. I've been sent pictures that I believe are fake Bigfoot tracks, right? But me personally, the ones that I had any interaction with, St. John's River in Florida, and this sort of thing, and right here in this region, and sort of that, and these were tracks that for sure couldn't have been made by a person with a wooden foot, right? And the weight of them was extraordinary, right? Like, when you put on a wooden foot, you weigh, it's less, it's distributing the weight. You need to weigh more, right? Not less, right? So, and that sort of thing like that. So, but anyways, he was a huge proponent for this, and probably by the things his science fully believe that Sasquatch is real, and I keep telling you it really is. They're just groups of wild humans that have evaded us since time began. At the earliest times, we've always known about them. They've always been reported. They live in caves. They avoid humans. They may occasionally grab a poor damsel in distress and that sort of thing like that, or a macho, right? And that sort of thing. Like I said, the most horrifying one to me still to this date is that guy working along this tree line electrical workers, and they went past this fence that was a little over 8 feet tall. Something grabbed this guy with one arm and lifted him right over. You could see where a little bit of his clothing was screeched, probably held it by him by the mouth, right? And then actually stripped off all of his clothes and ripped them off and dragged him away on like, so was that a female or a guy? You see what I mean? Like, I mean, that's terrifying, right? So, I mean, I believe a lot of people that do go vanishing, that people don't want to admit this, but I think that there's a groups of wild populations of these giant, red-eared giants of the woods, sorry guys, right? And these guys really know how to evade us, and they know we're danger to them, but they have realized that they're close enough to us that if you mate with one, you may possibly. My questions again, like I said, is the girl, does the Bigfoot baby, because it may be bigger, like the kind that's going to survive, you know, do something to her, maybe possibly kill her and she doesn't make it? Or do they keep her held captive and make a new one too, right? Like, it's hard to know, right? But you don't see any cases that I've ever seen, except a handful in Africa and a few things where uh, a couple around, but they're so slim, they're just almost zero, right? Of that, anybody ever seeing like a Sasquatch group with some wild woman, let's say, right? And that one of the few examples you can find over in England in Cadoc Chase, a famous poet, actually, this girl suffered from hypertrichosis, right? And she was actually captured by a wood wolf, like became his like mate, right? So the lady of Ipswich or Whipswich or it's some kind of weird name like that. Anyways, the lady of Ipswich, right? And she was this strange anomaly girl that had hypertrichosis and very big footish, and this poet would talk to her, and that she was taught like basic English and some other things. She was held in circuses and all kinds of stuff, right? There was a similar case in the United States like that and other ones around the world over times, right? So, I mean, I don't see why people have a problem with this. As far as I'm concerned, they're already proof they exist. You have wild humans that they can become quite muscular if they living out in the forest, and if a few of them were born and they, grab the odd thing, maiden, sometimes the Sasquatch, like all the traits, will stick to that one and that will survive, right? And eventually you have a diverse pool there a little bit, right? And all that sort of thing like that. So it's very peaceful, anyways. But sadly, he'll be missed. Now, this guy here, this guy is, when I was a young fellow, I first read this Chariot of the Gods, was totally abused by it. My mother was all upset with it and that sort of thing like that. And I would have debates with my mother and other ones and say, hey, listen, the guy's asking you a question. He's not telling you that they really are this alien or that they're not a god or any of this stuff. He's asking questions. He always puts like question marks, right? But people seem to not get this. I don't know why, but so a lot of groups attacked him and everything. And I mean, some of the stuff is a bit out there. Like I agree, right? Like I mean, for sure that it's not 100% all exactly as what the way that he put it. However, this guy got it all going right and did so much for it, right? My favorite thing about him, I was love with the interviews, and I still don't understand why him and Giorgio and the other ones have this kind of opinion. I don't get it because, okay, I look at it like in a historical sort of way that for thousands of years, people have told you that they've seen angels, these flying sort of ones that can turn into a human form and do strange things, and all this stuff, pictographs on the walls, and all these things. For thousands of years, this has occurred, right? And yet the Bible tells you that they come and visit down back in early times, and all these things that they had more interactions with us, right, and that sort of thing. They really are the same. The alien guy is the same as the God guy, right? And there really is a Yahweh guy out there of some sort. And from my understanding, he seems to be the chief of all these gods, right? But so I disagreed with some of the things that these guys would say, right? But my favorite thing about him is, and this is why it upset him, that his God, because he read like ancient Jewish and all that sort of thing, right? So very strict religious, and would read other texts from around the world. And this guy was enthralled by this sort of stuff, just like me with lake monsters and fish and these. Like I fully understand him, right? Like he was such a brilliant guy, right, and fully into this, right? But the some of his things was like he would say, "How could this be? God wouldn't have sex with the humans, not my God." Like so he wouldn't didn't understand that if you even read the Bible, how it works is that there'll be no other gods before me. That doesn't mean there is no such thing as other gods. He's telling you that he's the chief, and you should be listening when he tells you, not what the other gods tell you, right? But that doesn't exclude that they don't exist or not, right? So the thing is that all kinds of interferences, I'm sure, were occurred, right? And let us make man in our own image. And some of them, and there's these ancient texts and some of the early Bible chapter things that were taken out of the Bible by these Catholic guys that decided this in the 15th century. Totally silly, right? Like, I mean, some of these were, they're all together since the time began, right? Like, so all of them were accepted as Bible parts, right? It's still parts of like the Ethiopian Bible and different ones, right? But anyways, these guys didn't like some of the things that they said in there and that sort of thing like that. But the one of them mentions that the angels seemingly had like a Wazunga down there, right? And these cherubs are femalish like, right? So my suggestion is that these might have been mating with each other, right? So when these sons of God, or let's say more macho like angels, right, of some sort, right, and that sort of thing like that, that obviously he had a mate of some sort that she's not mentioned in that, but maybe one of these other gods, right? Sort of thing, because he's the boss, right? Well, whatever reason, but who knows, right? But the thing is that it mentions that they have this. Well, then I could see that these gods would come down and see these pretty beautiful mortal women, right? And find them attractive, right? So I don't, and this is why God, because he was so pure, the Yahweh guy, he did it in a different, like a more, I don't know, a different way where he didn't have to have like go down and mate with her, right? The Virgin Mary, right? He did it in a more, so all this stuff was pure about his child, right? Like not done in the other ways, right? That sort of thing, right? Like, so, I mean, certain things, theologies that they had, right? They seem to ignore, like, say, with dragons, they would say they were flying saucers. It's clearly not the case. I mean, there's tens of thousands of manuscripts where even the emperors showing the cost of their feet and all this, the guy riding on them with army generals painting on the go to show what's the battles going on, showing guys riding unicorns and different dragons and different historical battles. I mean, totally silly that they didn't exist. Of course they did, and but also flying saucers did. And one of the ones that they would use as a, for instance, a flying ship, a flying dragon, a flying chariot. They use things that the general public would understand, right? And that sort of thing like that, right? So that's where, I had a little bit of disagreement with these guys, right? But I love this guy. I loved everything about his thing. And I can fully understand, like, he wants, he wanted, like, God, like the way his God to be, you know what I mean? Like, but it's his God really was pure and did it in a correct way. It was the other gods that, the sons of God, and that created these Nephilim and sort of thing that had some naughty habits, right, and that sort of stuff, right. So, but anyways, there's we can argue about all the different stuff, but he's the guy that started it all, right? Like, I mean, there was a couple other people that had similar, like, but these books. I read one of them was in French, and I could read a bit of French, and it was interesting and that sort of thing. There, he was a French author, Michel something or other or whatever. Right? So there was a few around his time, like even a little bit before, and even like Fortune magazines, like some of the early sort of stuff, had this kind of vibe that could be that, space aliens or well, So, but he did it in the all the right way, and it caught on correctly, and all this stuff, right? Like and that sort of thing, and just the right people got a hold of it at the right time, and he had like, I don't know, dozens of mass, dozens of printings, right? Like probably way more than that, but I know at least that much, right? That sort of thing. So kudos to the mighty Eric Von Daniken. I totally loved the guy. I loved his accent. I loved his thirst for knowledge and quest for everything. So nothing but the highest respect. So if you've never read the masterpiece Chariot of the Gods, you certainly should, because he was a hell of a good guy. Oh, he'll be sadly missed. He was quite the character, and you know, lots of people would agree with a lot of those things, and then others not as much, sort of thing, right? So, but he was a good fellow. I fully enjoyed him. I liked all of his in depthness to things, and even if some of the things didn't 100% match up and all that sort of thing like that. It's him that really got all these questions and answers out there, right? And that sort of thing like that. And a lot of different viewpoints that of today that wouldn't have existed without this fellow, right? So anyways, kudos to the mighty Mr. Von Daniken there. but that was my favorite because almost every interview you'd always have with him, right? And he'd always be saying like, how could this be? These gods having sex with these mortals. The guy would be going on, right? So he really didn't like this aspect of this, that sort of thing like that. Anyway, so at least that was the main thing that I would get from him. But anyway, but he'll be truly missed. He was a legendary character for sure. So next here, I just wanted to talk here about this alien and the Bigfoot just sort of connection and that they're magic and all this stuff. I mean, this stuff is such imagination, it's mind boggling. Okay, so here you can see the Roswell aliens. They've came down here to the Outaouais and Vanier region, terrorizing all that see them, and that sort of thing like that, and. And of course they do know about the Sasquatch. And here's the thing. Okay, you have to think about this in a logical sort of way. Sasquatch has been seen since time began, but so has UFOs. Okay, so you got these two things. Now, we've already figured out, and most ancient alien guys will agree, that humans have been captured, experimented on in that, and they mess with their genes and these different things to doing things, some kind of experiment, right? Okay. So Do you really believe that an advanced race like this that can fly across the galaxy, okay, is going to prefer to hang out in the wooded forests and freezing caves, be loaded full of air and stink like no tomorrow, not take a bath for 18,000 years, right? It's not happening, right? But what would be is that aliens, like any, they observe us, they observe all kinds of creatures on this planet, including Bigfoot. So just because, and also a lot of times alien sightings are around mountainous regions, and so is Bigfoot because that's where he lives. But really, one has nothing, and it's guaranteed that it's not Bigfoot flying down here and doing this sort of thing, right? And I have a film that we already covered, but I got a bigger version, longer version of it. And I'll clearly show you that you can clearly see that Bigfoot has the ability in a microsecond, even of his giant size, to blend in with the background around and become invisible. They're not magical. They're not. I can understand why the natives, some of these groups would think this because you're looking at the guy and all of a sudden he seems like he's gone, but he really isn't. And that's the trick. He's not supernatural. There could be such thing as a ghostly Bigfoot, but the sightings when you see UFOs, and even if there was a case, I remember Linda Moulton Howell, I think it was, she interviewed some guy that claimed that he saw a Bigfoot beam down out of a spaceship, right? Well, that could clearly be true that he actually did, but that doesn't mean that Bigfoot's a space alien or some alien life form, right? Because it's just simply he's a primitive version of us. And even the different varieties, the chipman like kind to more primitive giant humans, right? Well, they would experiment on them as well, probably, right? So I don't have a problem that aliens have a Bigfoot connection in the sense that they study them, capture them, possibly, and things like that, do experiments on them. That's very peaceful because it's a primitive version of a man, right? And that sort of thing like that. But to state that they have magic powers or that they, are the space alien, like a lot of these books are trying to sell nowadays, is truly foolishness, right? I mean, sort of thing like that. But now here's a sighting we can rely on. Jean-Guy says this is a real Sasquatch photo of the Vanier rare Sasquatch, right? And he was spotted at the Timmy Ho's John reading the Skeptical Inquirer. Apparently, he's a big fan of Joe's magazine and Double Doubles as well. so the rare Vanier Sasquatch who's been seen there, and he's quite a high IQ, and he's fairly dubious of Joe Nichols and thinks that it's really not Joe Nichols that's writing this. Is probably another Sasquatch because he doesn't believe in these non-furry humans. Because in Vanier, most people are somewhat furry, anyways, right? So he just thinks that they're strange anomalies and that sort of thing like that. But anyways, so we'll continue on here. Uh, Here, this Nunavut crawler. This is as close of a description that, of a depiction that I can find that would match what this lady and this groups of families have seen around up in there since about 2020. So roughly 5, 6 years here of sightings of this strange. So the creature has human and legs, arms, like sort of thing like that, very much like these, skinwalkers, sort of thing like that. Has a face like a wolf's, right? As you can see here, right? And these funny sort of ears, right? And that sort of thing like that. And the thing will screech and cry and do funny sounds and crawl around, right? So, but it looks very much like this, right? So it's like a physical skinwalker sort of the Nunavut, right? So very interesting creature, but little's knowing, like I said, I interviewed just the one lady and some of her relatives through a different way, but like not directly talking, speaking to them, just a few that was with her, right? Originally, right? But all the other ones were contacted because of them, right? And that sort of thing like that. So very interesting. Anyways, the Nunavut Crawley, he's out there. So here's some ancient lore there is very interesting here. Strange vanishings. In 1887, a native woman would tie her children with a strap to a tree so that they could harvest and stop the kids from wandering off, right? So this was quite a common thing in some native cultures, right? Now, get a load of this. The father had noticed his daughter's strap was kind of loose there and not seeing her. So he hears dragging through the bush and ran with all his might and got to the daughter, right? And saw this giant hairy man dragging his daughter. It screeched and let her go as good as fortune came her way, right? So, like, I mean, this is a native tale, right? That was based on supposedly a real event, right? And this sort of thing like that. And so there's it has a historical thing to protect these children from wandering off like this to be grabbed by these wild hairy men, right? And that sort of thing like that. So I mean, that's very interesting, right? That the cultures like this. I noticed, as usual, this crazy program messed up some of the spelling, so apologize as usual, and that sort of thing like that. But anyways, it's an interesting, based on a true story, right? This is from 1887, right? Again, why is it that you're claiming that the native guy has this imagination and that with the giant raptor birds that they had in the past? I showed you on one of my other shows, there's clearly this guy has still of this feather that no ornithologist has ever been able to identify. It's titanically bigger than any known bird species around, right? And it's not old. So why deny that? Such things existed, right? Sort of thing like this. And same with wild humans here, aka our Sasquatch buddies. Some are pretty chipmanish, but others seem to be more Amish, right? Like, wild primitive humans, right? So every bit of mixture it goes on all through, the world pretty well of wild humans or using our caving systems and these kinds of things and different variants of them, right? Now, here's an astonishing, to me, piece of evidence that is ignored, that is ignored like the toe that I mentioned that's in a museum. I don't see how any person could ignore this. Any scientist can go there, they can examine it. They can't deny that it belongs to a giant because it's a giant human's toe. But it's titanic, like way bigger than any human ever was supposed to be, right? And it's found conveniently in Washington State, right around Mount St. Helens and all those places, right? I mean, come on. I mean, it's fully, even the color of the nails is copperish, like they call it in some of the native tribes, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, I mean, uh, that and some of these things, right? Like if you add them all up, there's too many, including some skulls, right, that are of titanic size, right, that clearly did belong to a giant. Now, this is an extremely early photograph, way before all this, and I can't think of this explorer's name, and I realized when I was doing this that somehow it got kicked out of here. But anyways, this guy, okay, was. An explorer, right? And he had one of these early box cameras, right? So he decides to go in this cave and he's going down further and stuff like this. I think this was around 1830 something, right? Okay. And now get a load of this. He gets in the cave and all of a sudden these eyeballs flash out and look and stare at him, right? So the guy freaks out and decides to take a shot at it and take a picture to prove these monsters. But when he comes back, he has no name for them, no anything to base these things off of, right? And nobody around yet really was familiar with Sasquatch much yet until that, right? So and not really prevalent until the 1950s, right? Where, the Bigfoot name finally comes out and that sort of thing like that. But before that, just small sorts of stuff here, right? Because you didn't have internet, you didn't have lots of things, right? So, I mean, you got to keep this all in mind that where on earth would a guy get such convincing? You can actually see muscular details. They're all identical. The only thing is the center one looks a bit smaller to me, and even that one on the left than the big monster up here standing up, right? So is that two children, a wife and a child, that kind of thing, right? But where would you have found a suit to match the Bigfoot thing? You can see the guy's arm seems to be quite long, right? And that they're ducking. All of them have this phosphorescent, like Bigfoot's known to have, the real wild ones, not these feral mixtures or other sorts, but or wild monkeys and that, but like the traditional, giant Sasquatch kind, right? Some of these guys seemingly have these glowing eyes that can reflect and all that kind of stuff, right? Clearly in this photo, it's here, right? This is an historic photograph. It's real from the 1830s, I believe it was, somewhere in that research range. So one of the earlier cameras, right? Very few people had any. There's no basis of Bigfoot yet. So why would the guy be able to get it so good? You can clearly see this creature has no neck. There's no neck standing out there. Like his head, his chin is sitting right on his shoulder, right? And look at the length and how furry these dudes are, right? So I find this like totally astonishing. One of the better to me pieces of evidence out there that is very striking to somebody, right? That, you know, you have to remember this is 1830s. Like I showed you that other thing. Oh, there was something in my tombstone epitaph, the lost photo that I have. Right, I forgot to mention originally when I did this. I mentioned it was a family. This family turned other families, all kinds of people sent in these photos as a collection. They turned it into a museum. So in the second one, I keep calling it a museum, but it really is. It was based like this family started it, and it's a real photograph. I mean, I don't see why it isn't being watched millions of times now. It's the most astonishing evidence. It's a real photograph from that time. The creature's way too big to be any sort of known bird. It has claws up at the top, just like a pterodactyl did. All the description matches just the tombstone epitaph, exaggerated the size of the creature a little bit. He's more in between a bare minimum of 15 to early 20-foot sort of range, width wise, depending on how big these people were and some other factors. But for sure, it's no less than 15, 16 feet across, right? So that it's impossible that it's any known bird that was ever accepted. And that plus the creature had no feathers, right? So, I mean, fully it was alive and real. A living flying pterodactyl was living in Texas in the 1800s, right? And that sort of thing like that. And same with these dudes, right? So I mean, this is really, you could not get in 1800s this flashlight effect of the eyes. You couldn't do this stuff. There's three real seemingly creatures here as well. The guy would have no basis on Bigfoot. He didn't call them Bigfoot. He didn't know what they were. The whole thing, right? So this is more of a recent phenomena that's resurfaced again, right? But I mean, it's been lost to time of an old story, right? And that sort of thing like that. But anyways, totally fascinating, one of a kind of piece of evidence here that if you analyze this and think about it, the phosphorescent eyes, the built-in structure of these, the time that it was done, how what would be the feasibility that a guy even knows what a Bigfoot is back then, and all this stuff, and to get suits this high quality that are better than a lot of the photos I see nowadays, it doesn't seem to me likely, right? So I think this is a legitimate sort of thing from this early explorer. I believe these to be real, and I think that's a really a compelling piece of evidence that because it's not CGI, it's not been tampered with, it's an original photo, it's showing phosphorescent sort of abilities before flashlights existed. And there's no neck on this creature's head up here. Seemingly, those ones probably not either, but it's too dark to know. And that there could be something even in behind it. You see some shadowy like thing further back in the back distance. I don't know what that is, if it's another monster or not, but whatever, right? Like, so I mean, totally fascinating, one of a kind sort of thing here, right? Like, so next year I wanted to talk about this time here, but another mystery cat, Tigra dentiro. Okay, Latin, right? So the tiger with big teeth, right? Like the giant dentures, right? Said to have huge saber tooth fangs and eat tapirs, right? So this particular type of smilodon like creature that's reported. There's quite a few different kinds, right? This South American cryptid, he's a bit smaller than prehistoric smilodon, and he's said to inhabit caves and hunt near water holes, which causes confusion because there is a water cats that do this similar like behavior, right? And that sort of thing like that. However, this cryptid seems to have a more specific diet and mostly of tapirs that and that's why they call it the taper tiger. Like it's sort of like it's more known to hunt specifically this sort of one, whilst with other ones are reported to hunt all kinds of things, right? And that so rarely seen, and it's presumed that they hold up in caves in the day and this sort of thing like that, and then come hunting at night and rarely seen, right? And that sort of thing, except under unusual conditions and that sort of thing like that. So, but anyways, were these on another show there, but it's an interesting cat in the sense that it seems to be quite specific compared to some of them, right? And that, and in its diet to the other things. So it's very believable to me in a lot of ways, and that sort of thing like that. So next year, was joking around what would be like if we had one of these Trudeau ray guns, which ones would I use to get to be my beloveds, right? Now, the only difference between me and most humans, most of them would be happy. They would just zap them and keep them their love slave for good, right? But I don't think that that'd be fair, right? So I'd zap it where up to, let's say, I don't know, 3 months. I suppose you know somebody pretty good by then if you're with them all the time, and you would zap it where they'd be fully like this for the 3 months, get to know you, and then unzap them. So if they still love you and care about you, then great. Then you caught them, right? If not, well then then they can run, and then you'll have to try one of the other ones that get you like. That sort of way. So anyway, so we'll talk about some here. That, I mean, this isn't even a full list, but these are the most impressive ones. Like in general, that you know, I've always the first moment I saw them, I was totally smitten with them, right? And that sort of thing. So this goddess here, I still to this date have never seen a prettier, more astonishing creature than this one coming up right here. And here she is, the mighty Elizabeth Montgomery. So if I had a ray gun for sure, that's the number one. She's if I sadly she's passed on for some time, but she still was the most beautiful creature that I've ever seen, man. Like I first saw her on Rawhide, and I told my parents that I was going to marry her then on Bewitched, but I also saw her on this weird. Sort of thing, which I think this one here, the center one possibly, but look at how stunning she was. I mean, just the most stunning creature I've ever seen. Like, but anyway, she won. It was this weird show for women or something like a drama like thing, but like she played this really good part in it where this girl was messed up and that sort of thing, right? So it was but I was a little kid and I only saw it once on a rerun sort of thing, right? That sort of thing like that on this show that they would play, and she was on it one time, right? There was some show that was around that. So but anyways, there she is. Apparently her house is up for sale, so I wish I had the cash for that, man, because I'd be living there. I'd say every morning, I'd say, "Hi Elizabeth, what are you doing, baby?" So that sort of thing like that. And so but anyways, she was the most like a wonderful actress, astonishing creature, like astonishing, like the most cutest pumpkin pie I've ever seen in my entire life. So that's still my number one love and crush. I loved her voice. I loved everything about her. Now, right up there with her is this pumpkin pie, the mighty Von Elliman, right? So when I first saw her, man, oh my God, man, I was totally mesmerized by her, right? Her voice is so distinct and beautiful. And you know what? I just saw her recently. She's got a little bit more Rubenesque, which is nothing wrong with that. All right. But the same cute face and the smile and that. And I think that's her husband. She plays with this guy, Kevin Neely, maybe. I think the guy's name was or something. But anyways, I think obviously, like, I can't imagine that she never got married, right? Like, so, and she doesn't look to me the type that would be one of these Hollywood ones that would divorce you in 30 seconds, right? And all that kind of stuff. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that's her husband, right? And that sort of thing like that. But, anyways, they sing together and she looked just as wonderful. And so I know I would have been thrilled with her all these years anyway, for sure, right? So if you've never heard her, look up especially the Dick Clark one is a real good one there. When she comes out, she was quite young then when like started it hadn't been out that massively long, and that and what an astonishing woman. But anyway, she still looks quite cute for her age. Totally nothing wrong with her. And she still sings beautiful and just one of the classiest acts I ever saw, right? But, anyways, a real tribute to Hawaii, right? Like for sure, right? Sort of thing like that. But I think the guy's name is Kevin Neely, and I suspect that it's her husband, right? He seemed the two of them had seemed to have some kind of bond on the stage there, and that I don't like reading about these things because I get downed out when I find out that they're married because I just hoping that somehow I'll run across one of them. But anyways, the mighty Von Element. Now, this lady here is so fantastic. The second I saw her with this ridiculous disco ball, and I said, "Oh, brother," like this, and rolled my eyes and just heard 2 seconds of her voice and looked at those beautiful eyes in her face and everything about her is the most astonishing woman. I would have married her in 3 seconds, right? It's all done. Already love at first sight here. The mighty Laura Branigan. So if you don't know who she is, you got to check out her legendary Gloria, which is really a well written song. It was actually originally released by an Italian guy, I believe, some kind of opera singer. several years earlier, right? But never really went anywhere, sort of thing like this, right? So she comes out, she had this most distinct voice. Another one there, Self Control. I live among the creatures of the night is just astonishing, right? Like, but anyways, this girl here, I got a real kick out of. I get it once in a while. I'll watch these funny shows where young people or different characters will react to songs of yesteryear and never seen or heard them before, and I just want to see their like skilled. Are they really an idiot or whatever? Right? And so then I seen this girl, and she said within 30 seconds she had the same kind of belief like me, right? Like she said, "Oh, hello, Laura Branigan. You're so beautiful, and I want to grow up to be Laura Branigan, right?" And look, it's funny. Even her jawline and facial feature is similar to this girl's, right? So, but anyway, she's got great taste. She knows skill when you see it, right? And that lady was all she needed was the most cheapest video going here with a disco ball. Yet even Sony invited her back 20, I think it was 20 or 25 years later. They had some kind of anniversary, right? And she came out, she became legendary. But the song, it has this great sort of thing to it. It's sarcastic and all kinds of stuff because it's about this, and I've met people like this where there was this guy I knew named Broads, we called him, right? Because every time you'd see me, he'd say, "Oh yeah, man, you should have seen last night. It was with 10 broads, like everything." But you never seen this guy with anybody ever, right? But in his imagination, he had girlfriends fleeing all over him, right? And so we always found him amusing with his big wild stories, right? And that sort of thing like that. Well, Gloria is very much like this about this, girl that's the makes it up as she goes along. There's a guy wanting a romance from her, and he's in Spain, and this one's doing that. They're all calling for her day and night, but really nobody's ever calling, right? And yeah, I'm sure every person's met a drama queen like this sort of thing, right? Over the years, so it's a well-written song just in itself, right? So it's got this great undertone to it and everything. But anyways, if you've never seen this astonishing beautiful creature. And sadly, her later life wasn't the greatest, right? But anyways, I'm very lucky. I met this young lady that we hang out sometimes. And well, I call her young. She's in her 40s. She's not really that young, but she's a mini Laura Branigan. She has the same facial features, similar in a lot of ways, not, and very pleasant and a wonderful person and that sort of thing like that. So I'm lucky I get to at least hang out with Laura Branigan Jr. and that sort of thing like this. But I really like this lady here. So if you've never seen her, she's one of these reaction to songs, right? And she's quite smart and a very charismatic, pretty young lady, right? So, like, I mean, just like Laura Branigan was, and that sort of thing like that. So, but anyways, there's the mighty Laura Branigan. So, for sure, if I had the space gun, that would have been zapped upon. Now, here, oh my goodness, this because of my Irish and Scottish heritage, I think that this woman, even though she was not a singer, a lot of these are singers, right? And that sort of thing like that. But this woman here was the most astonishing dancer ever in history of mankind and the most beautiful creature I have ever seen in my entire life. I have watched this video several thousand plus times, and I'm not a person that's even into this kind of thing below zero, but I just love this woman here. Uh, Oh, I think that's spelled wrong. Yeah, it's only one T, I believe. Anyways, the mighty Gene Butler here. Well, if you've never seen the last performance of River Dance, right, the original sort of one, right, her with that, I got to give a credit to this guy. Usually, I would kind of laugh at something that kind of stuff, right? Like, because a lot of these guys are flamboyant or strange, right, and that do this sort of stuff, right? But not this guy, mine. This Michael Flatley guy is a friggin' genius. The choreography of this, and this guy has some pretty good taste with the ladies there. I seen, I believe it's his wife, but I mean, I was impressed. But anyway, his smartest move ever in human history was picking the choreography to work with this mighty angel here, this mighty Gene Butler. I mean, it is the greatest performance I've ever seen, ever in history of anywhere of all the stuff I watch. Like, because there's something magical about that last ending there and the way that all these people together, symbiosis is so flawless, right? And she comes out with the Michael Flatley guy and the way he's doing his stuff, and the whole thing is just astonishing, right? So even if you're a heavy, more rock person like me and stuff like that, I appreciate genius of all levels. Any place, anywhere, and there was no better dancer ever in the history of mankind, ever in the history of mankind, and the cutest, sexiest, hottest woman I've ever seen in my entire life, and especially if she was wearing that outfit. But anyways, the mighty Gene Butler, I almost love you in the same range as Elizabeth Montgomery. Those two especially. But my buddy here, Laura Branigan. I mean, they're all so great, right? But now here's the next one here. Oh my goodness, this woman here, the mighty Grace, man. She might look strange to some. I don't care what you're, whatever. Every person has different tastes. This woman had the most beautiful, astonishing, creepy, freaky voice and look and everything about her. Every time I see her on the screen, I just wanted to jump through the screen and plant a big kiss on her. I find her so hot, man. So anyway, she was absolutely. So if you've never heard White Rabbit or ones like that, right? You got to check this chick out. She's a freaking legend, a legend. Like absolutely beautiful creature inside and out, and just fantastic skills all across the board, and the most distinct, unique voice you ever hear. She was a genius from the time, right? Like when Woodstock and all this sort of stuff, right? So, but anyways, what a wonderful, fantastic. Lady, another cute bug. Now, my super crush that I finally got to see a few years back. Well, it's been a little while, but it was the mighty Blondie Deborah Harry, which is really her band, but also, of course, she's Blondie, right? Like that. When I first saw her in the 70s, man, I was so smitten with her the second, just 1 billionth of a second of hearing her voice and her bass when I seen Heart of Glass, right? And that sort of thing like that. I mean, just the best, right? I mean, call me, you go on, right? But anyways, all these years I never got to see her, and finally I got to see her, and me and this little fellow, he's I guess a midget. But he's him and I were the first ones there by far by any people, right? And we guarded each other right up at the front, right? And then I had to go to the can once, and he had to go to the can. And the some of the stuff got mugged and that, but anyways, most of the concert we got to see her right up front, right, and then got close again, but not as good as what we were, right. But anyways, it was a fantastic evening. What's amazing about her, I had forgotten. I mean, in my mind, I was still seeing her as, Blondie Deborah Harry in this sort of way, right? And then I realizing, oh my God, she's in her 70s, right? At that point, now I believe she's about 80, but I don't care. I'd marry her in 2 seconds. Anytime she wants a hot date, I'll give her the massage of the century. That's terrible. But anyway, I still find her like so the most skilled and classy, and I don't know, just everything about her was like just something, an aura about her. She really had great taste in music, way she presents herself, and and all this stuff, right? So I mean, you can't beat like sort of this sort of thing. Like you know, she was one of a kind legend. That's like, I mean, still astonishing to this date, right? So, so anyways, another big kiss of mine. Now this one here, I would love to be her husband. I find her so astonishing that when I first saw her ages ago, instantly had a mass crush on her. I loved her voice so much that I was totally blown away by her skill, right? And this poor girl's from Australia, and there was all this politics going on where they wouldn't play music from other places, right? But I saw her early on. I think it was Much Music or MTV or one of those ones, right? And I saw her when it first came out, sort of thing like that, where it did get a little bit of play, and then they, I don't know, started messing around, right? But, anyways, if you've never seen this woman, not only is she absolutely stunning looking, forgetting all that aspect, she is in the top 10 greatest voices ever in history that I've ever heard, with the most astonishing skill I've ever seen, and right up there with any legend of business from Streisand, you name it, all the greats. This woman could hold her own against about anything out there that I've ever seen, right? And here she is, the mighty Anastasia, right? And she's so beautiful and so skilled. I mean, but anyways, she had like a lot of bad breaks here because her skill level is way beyond lots of the big legendary greats there. You got all these Celine Dion worshippers. No offense to her. I mean, she's did her thing, and certainly a skilled singer and all that sort of thing like that. But I mean, this woman here, she did this show called The Vampire, where she ended up, and if she'd be willing to wear that with me on the dates, that'd be better. But anyways, oh, hang on a second, something's hanging. She does a bunch of different songs on there and is hidden in disguise, and you got to guess who it is, and nobody does it, right? So, I mean, a few times I caught some of her things and kind of suspected it could be her, right? But, anyways, uh, she is so astonishing, especially when she does Bonnie Tyler's Hero there. Nobody takes on Bonnie Tyler. I mean, there's another pumpkin pie that's just stunning looking, and a voice of insane stuff there. I think, wow. But anyways, there's another one I could have easily put on there that no problem there. but but Anastasia is something else. I mean, she's right across the board. She even does Gangster's Paradise. I mean, this, and her voice is so stunning and so multi-leveled and so skilled that it's like ridiculous. She is for sure in the top 10 greatest singers of ever in history across the board. Like, bar none. All right. And I would love to be your husband. I mean, to wake up to that every morning. I'm scared of vampires, but she can wear that suit anytime. That was even cuter when she's like that almost. It's so strange looking that I'd find it entertaining. But anyways, the whole thing was geniusly done. If you've never seen it, you got to watch that. I mean, you'll see skill; it'll blow your mind. I mean, she even does Elvis. So I mean, stuff that nobody takes on yet. Everyone is stellar stuff here, like extraordinary stuff across the board, right? So, but anyways, now next year, I used to be able to speak Spanish when I was younger, and I lost that ability over the ages. But Shakira. Oh my goodness, man! So if I had the ring on it, I definitely zapping her as well. That well, any one of these first, I would have started with, of course, Elizabeth, right? But like I said, then you just keep going, whatever. So, but I mean, so, but anyways, Shakira, I mean, oh my goodness, that is one of the most prettiest creatures with the most beautiful voices, man. Like, so everything about her is just has a nice nature about her. Like when I'm see her ever on screen, I just get this. goodness there. It's not like she's a hard worker, very dedicated. Latino women are pretty feisty. At least I dated a couple that were pretty well, right? Sort of thing like that. So I mean, I'm sure she has that fire in her and all that sort of thing. But like in general, though, she's a real, like a high sort of thing for her Latino background, and has achieved astonishing things. When you get to play at the Super Bowl, you've done it, baby. All right. So, anyways, Waka Waka, baby, because she's a real cutie pie. Like, I mean, big time in every way, shape, or form, and that sort of thing like that. Now, these two ladies are, oh my God. I was going to marry a female that looked very much here like Agnetha, right? And that I don't think I think that's spelled wrong too. It's probably Frida. This crazy program. But anyways, these two ladies here, ABBA, which when they first came out with it, they were getting agitated by other groups, saying that that was the name of some kind of smell company or something, right? It was some kind of fish company, right? So, but it was just the initials of their names, right? But this I was going to marry a girl that looked very much like this blondie hair, right? Almost identical figure, same kind of face, same guys, same color of hair. I mean, you know, so I considered myself one of the luckiest men on this planet, right? Like, but the problem was is that everywhere we'd go, seriously, men and even women, like anything, it didn't matter. They were trying to hit on her, right? Like it was bad, and that sort of thing like that. And I went out with a few redheads that were pretty feisty, like this one, and she's just about as stunning, right? But anyways, like I mean, so I was lucky. I've been out with a couple of these sort of ABBA like females a few times, right? but but sadly, a terrible thing happened to my Agnetha, right? That I don't want to get into here, but anyways, you know. It was rough, but the thing is that these two, when I first saw them and heard them, oh my goodness, I like, I mean, I'm again a rock person more, but this is like legendary stuff. The skill, like even their husbands, right? The two fellows, right? Bjorn, I think is one of them's name, and the other one is Barry, maybe, or something like that. But those guys were totally really skilled writers. And the way they would do things, right? Like, I mean, some of that stuff, like SOS, and you hear the background piano, and it's astonishing, right? Like I mean, they called them the third voice, right? Because when these two would harmonize, right, it's like nothing you've ever seen, right? I've seen a lot of people come close to them, but not them. They are one of a kind, right? And the way that the Agnetha would do certain things, and how she would blend in Frida, right? Apparently, this Frida was some offspring of a Nazi experiment in one of the claims, right? I mean, I can't state these things to be true or not or whatever, right? But, anyways, I don't care even at this age. I saw them. I mean, they don't look the same, obviously, as they used to, but they're still wonderful, beautiful women. And leave it at that, right? Like, so, but anyways, it's a rough go if you ever get your own Agnetha or a Frida even. It's a rough go with females like this because it's like everywhere you go, man, women, Sasquatch, just about anything moving is kind of hitting put upon them, right? So it's not an easy gig, right? Like when if you're like a pretty girl or boy, right? Either it goes both ways. That this kind of stuff, right? It's hard for the other partner this way, right? Because it's like they're choosing you, but you know what I mean. The there's two they can choose 10 zillion, right? And that's the problem is it's too much, right? But anyways, very pretty ladies, anyways, and like said, the third voice when the two harmonize, nobody liked them ever on the planet, and that sort of thing. Now, this lady's skill here, and one of the most beautiful creatures I ever seen, and one of my earliest crushes of all times, here, the mighty Judy Garland, somewhere over the rainbow. All right. So, and also even her daughter, Liza Minnelli, another pumpkin pie there, and that sort of thing like that. But Judy Garland was way overworked. A lot of serious stuff, yeah, but her skill just in itself was right across the board. I mean, she could sing, she could dance, she could do any bloody thing. Her acting skill, her delivery, or all her stuff, and she was such beautiful presence and everything, right? Like, who wouldn't want a wife like that? All right. So, anyways, I don't care what anybody ever said negative about her. It's all BS. Judy Garland was one of a kind. Now, this one here, believe it or not, I actually met and had a glass of wine with a few, actually several glasses of wine that we had, and that sort of thing like that. I met her in Ottawa, and this is when she had finished her, Black Velvet like stuff, and like when they're not on tour much anymore, and that's sort of like when it's not a big thing as much. And I had a buddy that was sort of running things, security and all that, and he says, "I can get you in. Would you like to meet Alana Miles?" And I said, "Are you kidding, man? The Black Velvet, one of the most prettiest creatures. Like, look at her, how beautiful she is, right?" So when I was sitting with her for several things and watched a few of her sessions, I don't even remember half of what I was talking about because I was so mesmerized by her that usually I'm not like that, right? But for some reason, I got lost right into her, right? So I don't even remember half of the stuff. Usually I remember every little detail, but I found her so like pretty and everything, and I loved her voice and that. And when she did the Mississippi Black Velvet there, I mean it was just like so. But anyway, so it was a great time. Anyways, a very charming, nice woman, and that sort of thing like that. So that was a real privilege to sort of meet her, anyways, and that sort of thing like that. Uh, and then I hear the mighty Pat Benatar. The second I seen her and heard her, the '70s Giant Crush. What a beautiful woman, man! Just extraordinary. The queen of rockers, right? Right up with the ones that I'm going to be talking about next here in a second here, right? And that sort of thing like that. But I stuck up for these two ladies here. And that, but anyways, Pat Benatar's Pat Benatar. If you've never heard some of her stuff, Hell is for Children, whatever, right? Like all this stuff, legendary stuff here, right? Carly Simon, there's another one I could have mentioned. There's so many, but anyways, if you haven't caught any of these acts and you're younger people or whatever, missed out on some of them, you got to see this stuff. They're all astonishing, like beyond regular levels here of any sort, right? And speaking of that, next, when I was a young fellow, the second I seen her and Nancy Wilson there, I mean, her voice is so astonishing that it's like in a level of its own. If you've never seen the Kennedy Honors, where they do a tribute to Led Zeppelin, you got to watch that. Astonishing at her age to still sing like that. I mean, astonishing, right? And that sort of thing like that. And little blondie hair, I've had a crush on since a young fellow, right? And I would love to be her husband. She works so hard on that guitar as much as I do on fishing, right? And so I appreciate her skills of working that hard, and the same with even your voice. You still have to practice every day and do all kinds of stuff, right? And these two are workaholics. Astonishing. I never got to see them. One of the drags of my life, right? But I heard that some kind of rumor that they may be coming back on a tour, and if they come across this sort of region, for sure I'm going, man. I'll be right up there, boy. I don't care, like, because I mean these two are like astonishing, right? Like the best of all the rocker ladies ever in history. These two are like a one of a kind, right? Sort of thing like that. So, and little blondie there, I would love to be her husband. Nothing wrong with the voice of the century there, but it's just that uh, the little blondie is for some reason more sort of probably would suit to me. I would be more nervous with her, but I don't know. It's hard to know. But anyway, she's very pretty. When she was like when I first saw the two of them, I mean, they're so cute, right? Like they were so beautiful, like in the early, and they're still to this date. But then, like I mean, when they first came out, right? I mean, wow, yeah, and the writing skills and everything. I mean, just what two amazing ladies. Anyway, who wouldn't want to be? Either one of them would be the catch of the century. So, so next year, one of my earliest crushes of all times. I know I don't have a hope in hell with that one. Apparently, she doesn't. Not too many. Not the men fellows are going to have a easy time catching her as a date. But anyways, my favorite near actress of all time is Mighty Jodie Foster. I loved her when I first saw her. I thought she was so cute, and I was just a young little fellow like her. So we're a similar age group here, and that sort of thing like that. But anyways, what an astonishing woman there, and that sort of thing like that. And this pumpkin pie, Linda Blair, oh my God! If you've never seen Roller Boogie, she was so cute in that, but also one of the funniest sort of cheesy movies you could ever see, right? And it's got all the greats in it, like Donna Summer and different things like that. But anyways, there she is in part. I believe that's Roller Boogie there, and that sort of thing like that. So, but these two catch the century for anybody as well, like that sort of thing like that. So, anyways, that was the main ones that I can think of right this. I'll do another part two with a ray gun ones that I would have. So, but anyways, now here, Jean Guy there sent in proof that the Vanier green Sasquatch exists, and he's been seen throughout the city here. so, so here he is. You can see him there. He looks pretty. Chunky, and he's got a Santa suit on, so maybe he mugged Santa for the and that sort of thing like that. But so anyways, I'll show those films next there, and I'll show you why that a lot of native groups and different ones. And I mean, I can't fully say there's no such thing as a ghostly Sasquatch or any of this stuff. I mean, there could be such a thing, but or that a UFO kid, like whatever, right? Like, but the reality really is that they're physical creatures, ancient humans to ape a species unknown. They avoid us and that sort of thing. And this guy's just a bit more friendly. Like, I mean, if you told Joe Nichols that you saw a green Sasquatch, right, that was wearing a Santa suit, right, would he believe it? But no, here's the proof. Or is it? Is it AI? So, anyways, we'll continue on with this. But that the next shows there, we'll do some more mystery cats and some other things like that. But I'll show you these films next year, including this Yeti one that blows my mind. I don't know what to say because a lot of parts of it doesn't seem to be CGI. And I don't see how you could find a human being on this planet that could be that big. But my mind just can't believe what I'm seeing. But anyways, we'll cover some interesting films coming up next. So look at his incredibly long arms and legs, and he walks like a very fluid, not an actor kind of guy here. See now, look at that. I mean, the guy just in this little bit of brush there. These are small little things, man, and this guy can just like blend right down there. See, now he's vanished. Look, look, look. You wouldn't notice him if it hadn't been for that sort of thing, right? That you saw him before. So I mean, it's very interesting that it goes to show a great example here of how they can blend together, right? And so this guy here, this isn't big tree forests here. This is like little stuff, right? And this guy, when he sits down there, when they show the frame again, um, the only reason I know and you would know, or the people looking, is because we already seen him crouch down that spot. But if you weren't looking for that, and if that wasn't there, and you asked a bunch of people to poke out something, only the most observant would notice this. And when you're going by in a fleeting glance, right? So, can you imagine the guys seeing Bigfoot more in the evening, and all of a sudden it looks like a train here, and poof, the guy vanishes, right? That's why, because they have the ability to just blend into the background. So you can see why the native or anybody would think there's some of this stuff, right? Because it's so mystical. Like, you're looking at the guy, and in 1 second, a great big guy like that could just blend in with the grass and everything around him in a second, and it's over, right? So, I mean, very interesting, very, very interesting. But that creature, I believe this to be authentic for multi reasons. A, it's people on a train. You'd have to have some other character involved here that knew that the train was going to come by, in the hopes that somebody on there would see him and get the great film that he isn't going to get any money from. So you'd have to be involved with this guy. That would mean that the couple are hoaxsters, and that's too good of a suit, right? Like, they didn't get this at Bargain Basement or any place, right? Like, so I'm convinced that this is an authentic. By the length of his arms and legs are atrociously long. How he blends in there, the look of concern on his face. It's not a mask, it's his facial expressions change of concern and everything. So I'd say this is a winner. I'd give it a 99% probability that it's authentic. And it's certainly not CGI or any of that sort. This one we can tell. All right. So it's a straightforward, right off of the train sort of film here. So, but anyways, another example here, though, showing how easily that these creatures can blend into the background in a second and look like they have mystical powers, but they really don't. It's just they're great at camouflage, right? They're the chameleon of the northwest forests and the glades and these places, right? So, anyways, we'll continue on with some more other ones here. This film here we're going to look at is very brief, but it's very strange. And it was filmed in Oklahoma, and I had an experience with an Oklahoma Bigfoot. I didn't see him, but I saw his footprints, and I interviewed these guys and shot one. And I suspect that this poor guy died later or something, right? But uh, there's something interesting when you see the creature's facial expression slightly change, and that's pretty hard to do with masks and things. So I'm on the fence on this one. It's not provable enough to me to say yeah for sure. Um, but I kind of like it and think that it's very peaceful. It actually is a real one. So we'll just look here for a second. Now, see the guy, he's chewing on something here. And then, see there? He notices he heard them, right? See there? So, it's the thing is that it's hard to tell if it's just the way that the guy changes his face, that the expression is really the same as when he's looking that way, right? And that so it's on the fence, right? But it's certainly an interesting Bigfoot, and it's a very good suit if it is one, right? And that sort of thing like that. But in today's times, these things are way more feasible, right? So that's what the problem is that, it takes a lot more convincing. Like, and some guy, if he had to put out his tongue, it's a shame he was snipping at the thing. I find that odd. Like, I mean, there's something strange there about that. But very, very interesting. Anyway, yeah. So we'll look at some more here. One here is very interesting, folks, because this guy was out hiking and then he panicked seeing this, right? Which you can't blame him. I'm like him. I would not. When I was saw that thing at Kickapoo Creek, I was quite nervous. I thought this thing was going to attack at me, and that was a baby one. So yeah, and that Queon Bigfoot guy was not in a good mood. I'm glad I wasn't in that bush. Right. So I kind of think of them different than a lot of other people do. Just that, I mean, maybe some will run away, others just like a human, right? And this sort of thing. But even though this clip is short and that sort of thing like that, there's a couple of key features. This guy's arms are incredibly long, and he actually bends them back up when he looks aware that he's seeing. He notices, I guess, the person filming him, and it's interesting. I I'll give it a 90% probability that it's authentic because of the unless this guy had some genius extension in that, which I doubt. I just you see it clearly bend his arms back up and everything. It looks normal to me, everything. So I kind of I'm more on the fence that this is a real film here. It's quite interesting. So look at the length of his arms. See, yeah, there's something about that guy's face and everything that just he's very apish, right? And that sort of thing like that. So very interesting film. Look at this, folks. This is a very interesting film. This guy put this flying drone thing up in this mountain. Okay, so how did a guy get way the hell up here, right? Like a regular person. Okay. Now, there's something very strange about this. I mean, because I have a hard time believing that you be able to get an actor up there and all that sort of thing like this. And this guy seems to have very long arms. What is strange, though, that I find weird is if you look in the snow, right? It seems like it's like not even like kicking up or stuff much, really, or anything, right? So, I mean, it's weird, anyways, but very interesting. It's back in a second here, but I wanted to comment about this. This is so interesting that it's totally insane. This next film that we're going to be looking at again here, this one's very interesting, and I believe to be authentic. It's not a CGI thing. It was an emergency responder again. I'm going by these things that make it believable to me, and you can see that the guy completely turned his head and looked and was analyzing where he was going. Right? Okay. This here is the most interesting film I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, unless this is some kind of new brilliant CGI like stuff going on here, uh, I really like. I mean, if this had been shot 40 years ago, I would be totally like. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know what to say about this because you cannot have a human in a suit this big. It's impossible. And that guy, he seems to grabbed him by his suspenders, or maybe the guy had a rope with him or something. And there's some character that's filming this, right? Uh, but now here's my problems. This reminds me a lot of the abominable snowman in the Frosty the Snowman, no, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer there, right? Sort of thing, right? And the abominable snowman and the Yukon Cornelius, they go flying over this thing. And Bumbles can bounce, right? So conveniently, this guy does the same kind of thing that, you know what I mean, is in the thing, right? So this, I have problems with that. What would be the odds that the same thing occurs, like, but from the cartoon version, that's the closest looking to a Yeti like this, right? To this thing, but there's I mean, if you can do stuff like this now, I mean, how's anybody to know almost anymore what's reality or not, right? And this is scary stuff here. So anyways, we'll continue looking on it here for a second, but just watch if any of this is real, like if somebody can prove that this is not been, manipulated and it was just a regular shitty Russian guy's crappy camera of some sort, right? And that sort of thing, then this is the most astonishing thing in this universe because that is not a human in a suit. You know it, I know it, Joe Nichols would truly know in his heart. Look at the size of the tree compared to this dude. Look at how small that guy is compared to this dude. Where would you find an actor this big, like 9, 10 feet tall? This guy's titanic because the average person's, and he looks like an adult here, so even if he was short, let's say he was 5 foot on him, right? This guy is like twice his height. So, you know, this is like beyond like a suit stuff here. And no human being could pick up a person like that, like such easiness like this and that sort of thing like that. So, anyways, we'll look at this, but again, because my mind can't believe what I'm seeing, I want to blame it on CGI, but I'm not an expert enough to prove that this is the case. And a lot of people do this. Oh, it's AI, it's CGI, but you don't really know that. Like, I mean, unless somebody really is an expert at this and can see tiny little manipulations and figure it out, right? But and even at that, I'm suspect of a lot of these people, right? Like there's some ones that these every alien expert out there all claims this is a legitimate film, including Air Force people and everything. But then there's these guys they call they're like a Mythbusters copycats of those older shows that they used to have on with the guys who would do the myth busting and that, and they give you these ridiculous explanations that they're claiming that they know that it must be this, but they don't actually prove any of these things. It's just an opinion again, right? So a lot of this stuff, you have to, when the guy's screaming at CGI, he may be very incorrect about this, right? A lot of them are easy to tell. Like when I first saw there was this one claim to be a Loch Ness monster jumped out, I actually could see when the creature's jumping, these little blurs of the animated GIF in there, like the little fading of this clarity that's in there. So you can clearly tell it's fake, right? But on this one, I can't, and I just want to believe it is. Like, but I mean, I'm totally mystified by this film. I don't know what to say. So I can tell you ones that are probably real for sure, like the one with the couple. That we'll cover that one after. The one with the couple that film they're on a train and they filmed the Sasquatch. That's not a guy in a suit. The arms and the legs are all functioning very fluidly and way massively too long. Even if you had a fake arm, you couldn't do some of the stuff like what this thing's doing. And when he crouches down, he blends right in a tiny little bush, and all of a sudden it makes it look like he just disappeared, right? And this is why these natives and these people with big imagination that want to write their own book about Bigfoot as a UFO or a ghost and all this is where they get this idea, but sadly that isn't the case at all. I mean, there could be a ghostly Bigfoot. There's likely ghosts. I believe I've even had a few run-ins with probably what was a ghost, right? But I mean, even at that, there's real Bigfoot, and a ghost don't pick up guys and shake them all over the place, right? And this guy didn't fly down from a flying saucer. I can guarantee you that. He's too primitive. And that's another thing. I mean, if you think about it even logically, I mean, the creature's intelligent enough to design the super spaceship that we can't do, fly across the galaxy, and he comes out and he decides to live in a cave and stink and go ooh, and wait for ladies in the Tantrum Mountains, beauty queens, to be coming by so he can jump them and bring them back to the cave. I mean, how silly is that, really? Right? So any person that even wastes their time reading a book like this, it's just imagination. Like you can correlate. You can find almost any place, including Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, that has had probably a thousand plus sightings now of UFOs, probably way more, but I mean, that has even been reported. And this is just here, and it's not even known as a UFO place of any sort, right? And that sort of thing like that. So anywhere you can go, you can find that. But also in this region, you used to have plenty of werewolf sightings, right? And the odd Sasquatch thing a few times, but not much, right? But the thing is that there's no matter what. Now, you could say the same thing that you saw the flying saucer and also somebody saw Loup de Gru. Well, then you could say the Loup de Gru was the spaceship guy, right? Like, I mean, it's obviously that these guys from the sky exist. They monitor every life form on this planet, right? Not just one. And that's why somebody sees a UFO and that thing. And it could be that they even capture the odd one, and maybe some of these stories are true where they saw a UFO being shot. I mean, a Sasquatch being beamed down. Maybe they had captured him, now letting him go just like they do humans, right? Like a regular human, right? So, but anyways, we'll look at this a little bit further. But it goes very fast. But remember the, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and remember, was Hot Squeeze there, Clarice. Boy, what a beautiful voice that woman had. I don't know who the singer, but I mean, the most beautiful voice nearly ever. Like, I mean, right up there. I mean, so whoever she was, kudos to her. She was like right up there with elite singers. Yet I don't know this lady, and wherever they found her, she was miraculous, like a 10 out of 10, beautiful voice to her. But anyways, the it's a good funny story, good claymation thing, right? And the Bumble guy bounces down, and they think he's dead with you, Cornelius. And then, of course, the Bumble survives because the Bumble saved him, just like this guy here, where the Bumble's rolling and everything, right? So just watch this and remind you of the cartoon and wonder in your suspicion, is this some wacky, where somebody put a lot of effort into this? But I mean, where would you get your money from? Like, and why shoot such grainy film and all this sort of stuff, right? So anyway, we'll continue on here. Look at this bang. Look at that. Nobody on earth could look at that. Look at that. Look. Insane, man. Insane. Insane. Absolutely insane. The guy does look like he's actually alive there at one point. But now here's the problems that I have. That not once do you see like. It's because I mean the guy's smashing into snow, right? So the guy smashing into snow, what was that, right? Like, so I mean, you know, the guy's bouncing like at the most amazing sort of thing. Like, no human could do that, like dressed up in a Bigfoot costume and be able to fling somebody around like that. It's not happening, right? So, what on earth here? Like, you know, so hang on a second. Okay. Look at the height of this guy. I mean, seriously, compared to this dude, like, how did you do this? How did you manage this even in a CGI like way, right? So, anyways, I'd love somebody to get down to the bottom of it because my mind just can't handle it, right? Like, there's some funny things about how the human bounces back and forth that I find odd, suspicious, a few things, and why when he's hitting and he's coming back up, I'm not seeing any like snow stuck to his now body and things like that, right? Like, so there's some funny things about this that don't add up 100% to me, but it could be just because everything's going so fast, right? But anyway, one of the most interesting films out there is not as convincing as some or anything like, because my mind just wants to believe I give a Joe Nichols answer here. So on this rare occasion, I might join Joe Nichols here in saying this is a guy in a ghillie suit or it's AI, right? But yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, how on earth did they accomplish that, right? Like, I mean, because it looks like there really is a human, like some giant snowman there. And that guy does look like a real person. And at one point, he even stands up. It looks like he's still possibly alive, right? So I don't know what happened to this dude or whatever, right? But, anyways, we'll continue on with another one here. Forgot to say there before, what film was that now? It was the one where the hiker guy and this Bigfoot he's looking at has got super long arms. There was another key feature that I believe it to be real because of this other reason. Not only does the creature seemingly have no neck, but he actually turns his whole body with the neck. A human doesn't do that. The guy's head would have just turned, but the body wouldn't go with it, right? And because they have really no much of a neck, right? So I find that fairly convincing, that one, and he looks very chipmanish, like more of some unknown wild ape man of some sort, right? Like he's a super apish, right? Very long arms and all this sort of stuff to it, right? So that one could actually be authentic because it would be very difficult to design a suit like that. Very difficult. And even though he doesn't do much, and I can't blame the guy for hitting the road, right? So, but anyways, we'll continue on for another shows there. Sorry, these ones are hard to cut out here and that sort of thing like that. But I mean, you can clearly see that it's very feasible that Bigfoot can blend into a lot of different grasses here. When that Kickapoo Creek creature, as for instance, when it first came, I kept hearing it screaming, and not until it busted open this sort of reeds right near the edge of the bank that I could finally see it somewhat, right? So, I mean, even I've experienced that, and this creature's colors was weird, like it had a gray rump, but the rest of it seemingly was darkish of some sort, right? But I mean, it blended very well in with the grass, so if this guy wanted to be quiet and just lean down, you wouldn't see him, right? So I mean, I think we're wrong this way, that they're certainly not supernatural. I don't know what to say about this film. I am totally mesmerized by it. Could you imagine if this actually is real? Right? Like, that means that there's like probably 11 to 12-foot giant monster, because I think I'm being super conservative saying a guy's 5 foot. Most of these Russian guys are big fellows, right? And that's just, so as far as I know, this guy could be well over 6 feet. That means that this dude is like 12 feet at least in this sort of range, right? So, anyways, we get. I think anybody, even Joe Nichols, would agree that there's no way that this creature's, if this guy's a midget, that this creature's still shorter than 9 to 10 feet tall, right? So we know that much, right? And compared to the width of it, it's just so hard to believe when you're seeing, right? And like, Another thing that's interesting that I suspect that it's not CGI and AI and weird things, uh, a little bit in some ways. And one of them is this: who's ever filming this, they seem to be below the target. Like they're running and sort of like and probably going backwards and filming this, and or some kind of thing like that, or maybe a camera thing like on a tree or something. I don't really like it. Doesn't look to be, it looks to me like the person's moving backwards, but whatever the case, right? This, it seems that they're at a lower much sort of range than what the creature is, right? If it was what like an imaginary film, I don't think that would occur. Like typically, I don't think that the intelligence would put such a strange feature in it, because you would just make it across like looking straight. But it seems that this person who's ever filming down at a bit of a lower end. But it was we'll continue on with some more upcoming shows. There's all kinds of things to cover, but I wanted to cover about those two legends of the business there, and they'll be sadly missed. And we're true proponents for all this sort of stuff that everybody loves. Right? So, anyways, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. There's some interesting films on there. I had a little bit of fun with the ray gun. I'll put a part two. And none of these ladies were in order, but I had to do something like it. So I just kind of thought like ones that were the earlier ones or whatever. so, so I thought, like, I mean, if Trudeau can have AI Trudeau there, or whoever it is, robot or whatever that is, and he has possibly a ray gun, well then, like I said though, the only difference, I just want to zap them for a little while to see if we could fit, and then if not, then once you let them loose, and then they say, "Oh no, yeah, I didn't really enjoy myself with this guy for the last 2 months. I'm getting out of here." Then at least you got it right. And I wanted to get this out by Christmas. There, Jean Guy said he saw Santa flying by, dropping some unusual kinds of goodies to some of the citizens of Vanier, as well as a furry green Sasquatch that they took a picture of here. So I don't know what that is supposed to be, but he looks pretty Sasquatchy. He's furry and green. He's got a Santa suit on. So maybe this southern green Bigfoot there, the one that's Skateboard Swamp or one of those, is heading north here to Vanier in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So anyways, so hopefully everybody has a nice happy new year and all that sort of thing like that. And you got to admit, some of these films are starting to, there's more and better quality coming out. A lot of these stories now are completely AI stuff generated. Poor man in cabin saves two baby Bigfoot and a tribe comes to thank him, and all this stuff is complete mass imagination, right? But there's millions of subscribers to some of them, right? And these people fully believe all this stuff. So if this doesn't tell you like the IQ of our society is shrinking by the minute here, you know what I mean? Like if you told Joe Nichols right now, as a for instance, that you saw a green Sasquatch like creature wearing a Santa suit, he wouldn't believe it, right? But there he is, he's right there. Or is this an AI generated picture here, not real? You decide. But anyways, it's fascinating, all the wacky stuff that's going on. You never know. By the way, I'm not, like I said, political. This psychic on one of my earlier shows, ages before he got his second run in, he said that he was going to have two golden rows and a space in between it. So nobody understood what that meant, but he wasn't the president for a while. Then the Biden guy took over, and then Trump won again, right? So apparently after or and while this Trump's in power, a lot of wacky stuff will go on. But then after is when the real super action is going to come, right? So we've raised piles of people that are, you know what I mean, under 40s that are just right out to outer space, right? That are walking the walls. They have no clue if the electricity shuts off. They wouldn't have a clue what to do, and all this kind of things, right? Because of the generation previous that I don't know what these people were doing or what they were on, but they had no parenting there. But for the ones that did a good job, there's all kinds of young ladies there, entrepreneurs and young fellows that I see on here in YouTube. They're actually really intelligent and know what they're seemingly doing, right? So congratulations to the parents that did the good job. But in general, though, we're in big trouble, right? And there's a lot of scary things out there. I mean, if people actually believe that a giant 7 foot Algonquin woman came out of the forest and demanded that a midget 4 foot cowboy marries her or else, right? Like, I mean, seriously, like, how naive and fried is our average public, right? Or that Bigfoot is a space alien and all this. I mean, totally like right out to outer space. Anyway, we'll continue on with next shows. I'm sorry, but I won't go that far. Like I said, I think I've shown you very clearly that a Bigfoot can blend into the environment in a microsecond. Even a big giant guy like that, and he's gone. Animals are too scared to even track it. The thing most of the time, unless the dogs are really nuts, and even at that, he's not going to stand a chance against him, right? So even if you had 10 of them coming at the guy, they wouldn't stand a chance. You know it, and nobody would stand a chance. I have, like I said, in that 1800s report from Georgia, Florida border there, right? This guy was killed. He was 13 feet tall. He ripped people's heads and arm sockets out. He ripped their heads right off with one snap. Gone. Right. So I mean, what do you think? This is why. But it's a real creature, just like gorillas weren't believed for thousands of years, thought to be a myth, right? And that until Paul de Choiseul produced the final specimens. But according to them, there was a creature, no one like that, but they died out like 100,000 some plus years back, right? Depending on the ones, and some are like a million. It all depends on the fossil find that they had. But the thing is that according to them, these creatures shouldn't exist, and according to the fossil record, yet they certainly do, right? In the entire all this time since then, there's only been about 8 to 10 pieces of gorilla-like stuff ever found. So I mean, that's ridiculously low, right? Like, and so you can imagine what the odds would be of any of these things, right? Just like this green furry Grinch like Sasquatch here. So I mean, they're all out there. There really is things out there that we don't understand. There's more sea life, like literally probably hundreds of thousands of more creatures, maybe way more, that are unknown to science, right? Including gigantic things that are simply monstrous, right? That were described in old books that are just not as common anymore, right? And that sort of thing like that. But anyway, so we'll continue on next show there, and have a happy new year.